and Arkansas Board of Directors to order. At this time, we'll have a roll call.
Director Jewell.
Here.
Assistant Mayor Hart.
Here.
Director Roberts.
Here.
Director Harris.
Here.
Director Helpbush.
Here.
Director Brewer.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here. At this time, we'll stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, and our invocation will be given by Assistant Mayor Jeff Hart.
Let's bow. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for another opportunity to serve you. Father, we pray that the decisions we make will not only help the city, but it will glorify you. And Father, we just pray for all of our citizens and all of our public safety officers that you would keep them safe and just watch over our city, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Just a couple of housekeeping things. If you have your cell phone with you tonight, we'd appreciate if you would silence your cell phone. If you wish to address the board tonight, there's a citizens communication card on the ledge. If you would fill that out and get that to our city clerk, we would have a record of your speaking tonight. Also, when we get into the agenda, I am pulling on the consent agenda 5 and 7 since Paul is present, so I'd like to get a couple of clarifications on that prior to voting. I'll be pulling 5 and 7 off the consent agenda. Having said that, we'll open up for citizens communication time. I have one card already. Mr. Ed Lewis would like to speak to us about the Texarkana Dream Cruise. Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, Texarkana. My name is Eddie Lewis. I brought an idea to Texarkana, hoping that it will help bring some revenue to our city. Hello, testing.
There you go.
I brought an idea to Texarkana, hoping it will bring some benefits to our surrounding area. I visited a city, and they had something similar to this, and it worked very well, and I know that it'll work here. I will read this. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. It's only one page. Texarkana and the surrounding areas have a great family of classic car owners. There are car clubs, and there are individuals. They represent both sides of the city, and they love their classic cars and they look forward to telling the stories of their dream car. I have witnessed a dream cruise in the city of Pontiac, Michigan, where their cruise strip was 24 miles long, and the cars were bumper to bumper, both sides of the road. Their dream cruise is a huge economic success for their community and their classic owners. I'm asking that we, the citizens of Texarkana, host our first annual Texarkana Dream Cruise in Texarkana on the weekend of Memorial Day. It consists of classic cars cruising State Line Avenue to the downtown area from August 29, 2025, 5 p.m. until Sunday, August 31st at 12 noon, Labor Day weekend. The cars will cruise State Line Avenue from downtown, where all of our civic events are held, to possibly the racetrack gas station, which is now being built on State Line Avenue. The downtown area is where car owners can show off their classic cars and speak to onlookers and enthusiasts. Vendors would be welcome to participate in the community event to be set up in the downtown area. If the future of this event is so great in the turnout, we could possibly use parking lot of Beach Street Baptist Church to show the cars. Just a thought. One of the largest and most important factors to make this event a success is both Texarkana, Arkansas, and Texas allowing these vehicles to be paraded during this weekend with no registration, as some of these classic cars are trailered everywhere they go, so they don't have registration. Yes, there will be outbursts of what ESP, Exhibition of Speed and Power. That's very simple, as I witnessed Pontiac Police doing. TAPD, or Texarkana, Texas Police, are cruising the strip also. They're in the parade. In the event someone's driving excessively, the officers are simply pursue them with their lights on. When they stop violating whatever they're doing, they turn their lights off and they keep going. It worked beautifully. An officer never got out of his vehicle. And the people did adhere to their their response. This is a great way to promote Texarkana by classic car enthusiasts. I know that this would be a great economic promotion for our hotels, retail stores, fuel station, local vendors, and it being on Labor Day weekend would be a huge success. I brought this to your attention for, not for a decision tonight, but something we can ponder on, maybe get a committee to talk about it. If you're interested in me being a part of it, I would do it. But I think it would be a great asset to our community. And I've already spoken to a lot of the clubs and car owners, and they say yes. They said, where do I sign? I said, you don't need to sign anything. Let me present it to the city council. If they say no, then we'll get a list of signatures that could possibly support the idea.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes,
do you
sir.
have that? I'm going to give you a card. Can you email me some of that information?
Yes, I have copies of it.
Okay.
About 10, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
I was just gonna say, what really is stopping you from initiating this?
Well, it's not a thing about one person.
I understand that.
But it's the thing that, let me get back over here. The thing that made it a success in Pontiac, well, one person did initiate it, but it took the city council to approve it because the first 2 years, it was just an individual. But after they saw the success of it, their city council approved it, and they also waived the registration because, like I said, and they have people coming from 200 or 300 miles.
What you mean,
It was a city-sponsored event then.
Yes, sir.
It was
Yes, sir.
city-sponsored.
Yes, city-sponsored event. Yes, sir. Yeah. So I don't want to do it as an individual. I think it would be better as a city-sponsored event.
I don't see an issue with it, but, I guess you could also talk to our A and P guy. We have two guys up here on the A and P.
Okay.
Director,
We have a A&P commission.
Yes, sir.
That provides funding for events like that.
Okay. Okay.
So the funding cycle, typically, the ask is in October.
Yes, sir.
For the following calendar year. Now, you can make a late request anytime you want, but it's at the discretion of the commission to approve that.
To prove it? Okay. I'll get with someone after this meeting, and you can lead me to that commission.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else wish to address the board? Anyone else? If not, we'll move into a couple of presentations. Our first is our City Service Awards. We have two recipients tonight. I'm told, I think one of them is present. We have Mr. Bobby Forte with TAPD for 5 years. Thank you.
Congratulations, Bobby.
Our next would be Brian Nolte from Public Works Department, 15 years, and I don't think he's here. He said so y'all can give him a round of applause. The next is Airport Director Paul Maryland.
Good evening. So this is our third quarter budget review. Revenues, we've had $2,213,089. That includes the subsidy that we get from the cities. So the revenue less the subsidy is $1,199,421. That is 73% of what we expected at this time of year. So that's right where we would expect it for October. Expenditures are $2,146,776. We're a little bit over just from overtime. The airlines have been moving their flight schedule around, and it's been causing us to have more overtime than expected. However, we are not anticipating needing to request any additional funds or do a budget adjustment. Internally, we will move funds to cover that expense. So revenues minus expenditures, we are currently positive $66,313.
So I'm assuming on that back slide back there, you have that's quarter in 2023, that should be 24.
That's right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
On the next slide.
on the next slide.
Previous.
Oh,
2020.
Oh, yes, yes, sorry, that should be 2024. January through September, operations were 12,985. I'll show you some charts for these, so that way it's not just data. Employments, 28,237. Parking revenue is $262,888. Rental car revenue, $232,558. Our average load factor through the year is averaging 74%, and landing fee revenue is $57,212. This is data going back to 2015, so you can kind of see where our averages are and how it compares. Operations over the last 3 years, an operation is a takeoff or a landing. They have been going down over the 3 years. This is kind of a combination of things. A big part is just the fact that fuel prices have been high and the economy has been, all around high, making it so people have less income to be able to go out and do as much flight training. When we are working with Texarkana College, I'm pleased to tell you that on Friday, they received their certificate to start the A&P school. So the first class will be starting in January, and we will begin working on the next portion of that, which is to have a flight school out at the airport, which should then increase the operation numbers. Enplanements, you will see that the year that it was all in red, that was 2020, and each year has been coming back. We have had less enplanements this year due to only having 2 flights a day. Last year, we had 3 flights a day, and you can see that was where we had a record number of enplanements for 25 years. Parking revenue has been increasing pretty much ever since COVID. In this last month, which wasn't included here because it's just third quarter, it's gone up quite a bit. We're associating that with the lithium work that's being done. A lot of people are flying in and then driving out to Magnolia, so our rental cars have shot up quite a bit. We don't know if that's just going to be for a short period of time or if that will continue into the next year, but you will see that the next time we come. The 1 month that was lower was the month of July when we first opened the terminal and we were waiting for the parking system to be activated. And that's where we say in rental car revenue, there you go. You can see that it shot up this last month. It's very high. We're going to watch to see if that continues then through the holidays and whether it will start to come back down to a normal level.
Paul,
You-
can I ask you a question on that?
Yes, sir.
I know Enterprise is building that big location on the Texas side where they're consolidating
Yes.
their cars. Are they still going to offer rentals at the airport as well?
So we only have Avis Budget and Hertz at the airfield.
Uh-huh.
Enterprise does have an agreement that they are allowed to, if they have business partners flying through like Signature or FBO, that they can come pick them up. But they do not actually rent cars
Okay.
through the terminal. And you'll see that every year there's a drop-off, and it's always in that January, February time period. So we would expect to see the same. Load factor. This is how full the aircraft is, percentage-wise. And so you'll see that pretty much all through COVID, they were really struggling. And last year, although we had a higher number of enplanements, the load factor was lower. Since they have dropped to 2 flights, you can see that it's gone up, and we've been consistently above what was our old average. So the airline is more stabilized, which is important to make sure that they are profitable and will stay with us. Now we just have to continue to grow the number of people who are flying so we can justify bringing back a 3rd flight or putting a flight to Charlotte. And then landing fee revenue. Prior to 2020, we only would collect landing fee revenue from the airlines. That then dropped off once the airlines had pretty much stopped flying during COVID. We had made an agreement with them to push off some of those funds into 2021. So we implemented a general aviation landing fee for aircraft over 12,500 pounds. So that mostly gets the small jets, the net jets, flex jets, that are flying commercially, things that are larger than a King Air. And you can see that our revenue has post-COVID been fairly high. Pre-COVID averaged about $3,200 a month, and now it's averaging about $7,000 a month. We are also now tracking how many gallons are sold of each type of fuel. So in avgas, that's the gas that the small aircraft purchase, we average about 3,500 gallons. And then in Jet A, we average about 50,000 gallons. So this year will be somewhere around 600,000 gallons. A lot of larger airports do over 1 million. We are looking at Signature sold their location in Bullhead, Arizona. We're looking into how that was done and to explore potentially trying to obtain the FBO so that way we could bring that as an additional revenue stream into the airport. And then we will be doing our next board meeting on December 5th because of Thanksgiving. And so that will be the week afterwards, and certainly everybody is welcome to come if there was any questions.
The employments, we've got less planes coming
Yes, sir.
in, flying in, but it's a bigger plane, right?
That is correct?
Carrying more passengers,
Yes, sir.
right? So, but the airline is expecting us to provide more passengers to them, right? Before they increase to a third flight a day, right?
Yes, sir.
How likely is that to happen anytime in the near, what's your,
So what they want to see, I'll go back to this load factor. This dotted line above, which is kind of your standard deviation, this is about 75%. They want to see that your average is closer to 80%. That's about an additional 10,000 people. It is possible. However, it is a challenge because a lot of the people that we had fly the previous year, which we definitely had the number of people locally to fill those seats, but by having the midday flight, it's sometimes easier than coming out at 5 in the morning to catch the plane if you're able to go out at that 10 o'clock. So that's kind of a challenge of more people feel that the two flights are inconvenient, and so that's why we see that we have less. But the airline will then say, if we cannot get more people, then all that they've done is they'll say, we are at the right size for our market, because those two flights are profitable. But at some point, your market will kind of hit a kind of a plateau.
you're saying 10,000 passengers. How many passengers is that per plane for us now?
You would be needing to bring in about 8 more passengers per plane.
On an average?
Yes, sir, on average.
Is that something you foresee us doing in the
It probably won't be within the next 2 years, but that's where we will continue to grow it. What will probably end up happening before then is where we're about to do the overlay of the runway. Once that has come in, we have been talking to a low-cost carrier, and we were more likely to get a flight from a low-cost carrier that would go either direct to somewhere like Destin or Orlando or Florida and have that as a single flight where they'd come in like on a Friday and a Monday. We're much more likely to get that because there is a large market that is currently untapped. The American Airlines flights are built around business travelers, whereas a low-cost carrier is more about the leisure travelers. And so we believe that more people would tend to fly that where they could get a one-way ticket that's $70 type thing. So
in your estimation, American Airlines has stuck us with the inconvenience of only 2 flights a day, right?
it is certainly a challenge for us, but on their side, the way they look at it is to look at that load factor to say, before, when we had the 3 flights a day, they did not consider those flights profitable. If they're not making money off of them, then they start to look at, do they stay in the market?
Understand. But
So,
that-
yes, it's an
removing that third-
inconvenience, but
Removing that 3rd flight is definitely an inconvenience.
Yes, sir.
For the flying public out there.
yes, It gives us more stability for the airline, though.
Right, well, I understand that,
Yes.
but I'm not part of the airline, you know, I'm on the other side of the court.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm the one that would like to have a third flight instead of having that midnight, whatever, or that 10 o'clock bill, whatever, you know, limited. So, I attended the previous board meeting, y'all's board meeting. I mean,
Yes, sir.
Not the most previous one, the prior to it. Y'all were discussing the ticket situation, going back to changing the ticket. How's that coming?
Yeah, so right now, the airline has taken a direct kind of interest in our market. So the airline has so many flights across all these different airports that they essentially use an algorithm to set what the ticket prices are. So the closer you get to the date of your flight and the less number of seats that are available on the flight, it automatically increases that based on what they're seeing. Our argument with them was that the algorithm was creating prices that were over $1,200 for a one-way flight to Dallas. And we explained to them it would make it impossible for us to sell those last seats. So they have gone in, and since then, ticket prices have been remaining at about that $350 range, which is normal. I would also note that flying beyond Dallas tends to be cheaper than flying just to Dallas.
So y'all were somewhat successful in y'all's?
Yes, and so again, we're watching to see where we made the argument that was what was holding back the ticket sales. They're now running it to see, do our tickets actually increase, or did that have no impact?
Okay. Also, y'all were discussing the parking ticket going the paper route or something. Did y'all make a decision on that? Is that fine?
It's been installed. The ticket system has been installed. We had a lot of people who indicated that in the morning, they would drop off their vehicle into the parking lot, and then later on in the day, they would have a family member come and pick up the vehicle, and they could not do that the way that our system worked. Now with the paper system, that seems to have solved that problem.
Is it working okay? I mean,
Yes, sir.
It seems to be, to me, a whole lot better system than what it was there before.
Yes, sir.
I just want to talk to you a second about the money side of it so that I can better understand. And one thing I'd like for you to do is, in talking with Tyler, and especially our finance director, I think we need to have a meeting to better understand the airport spreadsheets and how the money's coming about, because as you know, I've been an advocate for reporting this because I know on down the road that we really need all the notice that we can when that airport finances change and what the deficit that it would bring upon our city that we will pay, but that we had more transparency in knowing where that money was and what was coming from. And so when I went back and started looking at your numbers today, and I started looking at the budget we approved for 2024, which our proposed deficit was like 605, something like that in the beginning. And I don't see that in these numbers. I see a larger deficit than that in these numbers, and you indicated that there might not be as large a deficit than what we have, but if it was, we're going to move money around. So where can you move money around and not require more from the city? But, you know, right now, what I'm looking at is we're about $100,000 behind, which would be split between the two cities. And then if I just take simple math and add what your expected revenues are, like in parking and all those things, and just average that out over the last quarter, because we're simply doing an estimate because we don't know what those numbers would be, that's not going to be on target. So I'm just trying to understand from you where that's coming from, but it appears that the budgets are changing. And that's why I think that we need a better understanding with our finance department and with Tyler, him being new and the city managers. How are those numbers, you know, first and foremost, you can't alter a budget without a budget amendment.
Yes, sir.
And that would have to go before both cities, I understand that, but we're getting different ones. So when we get spreadsheets from, because I'm on that email as well, because you included me, so when you get one spreadsheet, one set of numbers from Shannon this week or this month, and you get another one, they're different. And I don't know, I'm having a hard time figuring out, you know, where those are, and I think the city staff is too, but where would this money come from? Because my take would be, and I hope I'm wrong, that we're going to have a larger deficit than what we proposed in 2024. And at the end of the day, it's probably going to take a budget variance to approve that. But if you stated earlier that you were going to move money around where that wouldn't happen, where would you get it from?
So one example is that we have 7 or 8 houses that are on the airport, and we budget a certain amount to maintain those homes. During this last year, because on December 31st, the FAA was making us close out all of those and that they would move out, I had said that they would have no major repairs to them. And so we have then in that line item, we have more money at this point in the year than if we'd been spending throughout it.
Well, how much is that?
So we have approximately, in that line item, we have $10,000.
$10,000.
So that would be one of those things that we can move and then put onto an area like the payroll for the air rescue firefighting to make up for that difference. So at the end of the day, when we get to the end of the year, our bottom line, we will not spend a dime more than we said that we would spend. What we will do is, in certain areas that will have happened throughout the year, like if the air rescue firefighting vehicle had emergency repairs on it, that wasn't a budgeted item. What I will do is I will take something from like my airfield maintenance tools line item and cover
Try
that.
to balance it out.
Yes,
And not
exactly.
do anything in that.
Yes.
I mean,
so-
just as an example, and I'm going to move on, but like in this report, you said your expenses are $2,146,000 in our original budget. Our expenses for the year were $2,036,000. So we're already $100,000 difference in what you've already spent and what our original budget was. But that budget amount and a budget we got from Shannon earlier, not too long ago, that amount had changed. So I'm not sure how we're doing that, because you, in my opinion, you should not be changing amounts that we're budgeting, that we're approving. You
Right.
should be coming to both of these cities for amendments to those budgets. So again, that we know going forward that, hey, we're going to have another $300,000 due in December. We're going to have this, we're going to have that, because as everybody knows, when we get to 2025, we're going to be spending over $1 million of a deficit that, when I first became mayor, was $100,000. So I just wanted to bring that out so that maybe you would take the opportunity to set a meeting up with Tyler and with Lauren, and at least
Absolutely.
try to go in Shannon and go through these spreadsheets so that we can get a handle on it from that perspective. Does anybody else have any questions for Paul?
I'd say you
Just
better hope
wondering.
it's $1 million.
Just want to make sure that I'm clear that you said the reallocation is going to come from your cost savings, some of the line items.
That is correct, sir.
All right, just
Yes.
to make sure it's clear.
Every month, we also do have a budget monitoring committee where we're going through these things, and we'll extend that to any member of the city council who'd like to come, but we will also reach out to Tyler to arrange a meeting.
So, Paul, I mean, I'm hoping that, I mean, you're kind of like you're hedging your stuff, right? You're hedging it that something's not going to happen, that you're going to have that savings to be able to take back in and not have to do a budget amendment. I mean, I don't know that's good business practice. I mean, I think it would be better to forecast what you're going to need and do a budget amendment, and let's just be transparent about it. Because you're counting on things that may or may not come to fruition to be able to cover those expenses. Like the mayor said, you're already forecasted more than that we've budgeted for this year.
What,
He's not in his head and on paper, but in reality, that's what I see. And I just want to set that for the record. That's just my opinion of what I'm seeing, where the cash flows are going and what we're doing. And I think you see that, but you're prepared to make the adjustments so that you don't have to come to the cities for additional funding.
Okay?
That's correct.
I hope that works out.
yeah, I understand that the cities, it has been a primary thing that I do not have to come back to the cities for additional funds. I've explained to my staff that means that when sometimes something happens, like an ARF vehicle has an unforeseen maintenance, what that means is I can't do something else, and we will cover that cost. So that is our intent, to not come back to the cities for additional funds.
So,
Any other discussion?
on a different note, while we have you here, your last council meeting, I know that we were approving something that you were working with the power company to be able to get some stuff done to try to get the solar hooked up so that we can start recognizing some revenue off of that. How much closer are we towards that? I know it's only been 2 or 3 weeks, but just give us a quick update on that, because that's revenue that's gonna come in, that's gonna help, right?
Yes.
And we're currently not, my concern is that we were told that that was going to cover some of the cost of what that was, and then we found out, well, it's not hooked up, we've got to do some more work, and I wasn't aware of that, maybe y'all were aware of that. And then where are we at and still not being able to recognize revenue of having that whole thing set up, that thing?
The Texas side approved the easement at last Monday's meeting, and they picked it up on Thursday. I will get an update for the board on what day that will be installed.
But it's still not.
It is, as of today, it is not installed.
Danny?
I just want assurance that you and your board will live within the budget that we, this city and the other city, have told you that you will live within, right?
Yes, sir. Any additional request, I would have to come to the two cities.
I want to hear, I want
Absolutely.
that commitment from you and your board, that
Yes, sir.
you'll live with it.
Any other questions for Paul? Thanks, Paul. If you'll just stick around, just have a couple of questions on those others. At this time, we also have a presentation for declaring November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday. I have a proclamation here that I'll read. Small Business Saturday, November 30th, 2024. Whereas the government of Texarkana, Arkansas celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 34.7 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 61.1% of net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 45.9% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent on a small business in the United States stays in the local community, and every dollar spent at small businesses creates an additional 48 cents in local businesses activity as a result of employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and services. And whereas 59% of the United States consumers aware of Small Business Saturday shopped or ate at a small, independently owned retailer or restaurant on Small Business Saturday 2023. And whereas the Texarkana, Arkansas supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas local advocacy groups as well as the public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. And whereas the participating partners included the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, City of Texarkana, Texas, Main Street Texarkana, Texarkana Chamber of Commerce, Communities Unlimited, the Small Business Development Center, and partners from locally owned or small businesses in the greater Texarkana area have partnered to promote small businesses. And whereas the participating partners will launch a scavenger hunt encouraging consumers to visit locally owned or small businesses with Texarkana between November the 21st, 2024 to December the 6th, 2024, consumers will hunt for hidden elves in participating businesses and scan a QR code attached to the elf, prompting them to fill out a form and enter to win a variety of prizes. Consumers are also encouraged to show their support by using the hashtag ShopSmallTXK24 when they visit local businesses this holiday season. Now, therefore, I, Alan L. Brown, Mayor of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim November the 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday. Urge our residents in our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday throughout the year. It's signed by myself as mayor, and it's signed by our city clerk and attested by our city clerk, Heather Sawyers. At this time, I'm going to present that to Jamie. All right, this time we'll move into our consent agenda. As I mentioned, I am pulling 5 and 7. So that would leave item 4, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting October the 21st, and item number 6, to adopt a resolution authorizing the airport executive director to enter an agreement with H-Light for runway restriping. What would be the desire of the board?
Move for adoption.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve of items 4 and 6. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll? We're going to vote anyway since I pulled. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item number 5, I just had, Paul, I have just a couple of questions for clarification, just to see, because these things do involve money, and I just wanted an understanding for, when I read through it, to make sure that at some point in time, we wouldn't be asked for this money, or if we are going to be asked for this money, at least we'd be transparent up front and know where that would be coming from. But this pertains to the environmental study that might or might not have to be conducted, and you state in there that we would not have any local funds for this project for matching, but you mentioned in there the bi-state partisan infrastructure funds that, I'm aware that we're getting for the airport projects, but I'm not for certain that we can use those funds. And you said you're checking into that to see if we could use, because, this could get up to almost $500,000 for that study.
So this is to do an aquatic survey. Aquatic survey is required by the Army Corps of Engineers, and then from that, they will either issue us a national permit or an individual permit. If we have to do a national permit, then we can do what's called a categorical exclusion, which essentially you do a checklist to check for wetlands and endangered species and those type things. A lot of this area has been checked already from when we built the taxiway and the terminal building. If they say that we have to get an individual permit, we will have to conduct what's called an environmental assessment. That is the study that would be approximately $400,000.
So the previous assessments you just mentioned before that, how are we paying for those, or are they provided by the Corps?
So we would be using funds from the state of Arkansas, where they awarded us the $16.8 million. We'd be using that to start this survey and find out whether or not we're going to need to do an environmental assessment. Once we know that, it will take approximately 3 or 4 months. Then we will be looking at where we can fund that. We have been told from the FAA that we cannot use the bill funds for the environmental assessment if we have to do that.
Which would be my point, which I don't know that we could use our infrastructure money from Congress to pay for that as well. So, but you're sure that we could use our state fund money that we have been?
Yes, and that would be for this piece. If we have to do the environmental assessment, that is a conversation that Rob Sitterly and I are having with the state of Texas on funding that they would provide, which would then go into environmental studies and then mitigation that we may have to do.
And how much lead time would be on that before we knew if we're going to have this thing or not?
So in 4 months, we'd be given the report, and then from there, once we have that report, we would be able to start the process of how we fund it. We just would not be able to start the study until we have found which funding mechanism we would be using.
So if it's okay with the board, I can discuss this item with them, and then we can approve these in the same vote. So on the next item,
Mayor, they're pulled, and you got to vote on them separately.
all right, does anybody else have any questions for this particular item?
Negative.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollibush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. Item number 7 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the airport executive director to enter into an agreement with Tatum Excavating for the general aviation apron expansion. And so when I started naturally looking at this, and it's quite a bit of money, and I can't get everything to add up. And then I just kept looking, and I just want to make sure for, again, transparency purposes and to make sure that all this is covered, because it involves almost $800,000, is I understand what we're doing, I'm very familiar with that, and then when I got over to the resolution that was passed by the airport, it actually explains a little bit more about where the funds are coming from. Not necessarily what the resolution says, but necessarily what the airport resolution says, and it got me to thinking about a couple of things when I read it. So first of all, it says that 200,000 of this 800 is coming from Division of Aeronautics, then another 150 is coming, right?
That's correct.
And then we have 47,400 that we actually budgeted for in 2022 for the fees and stuff that are the engineering fees and stuff for Tatum to be able to do the proper job. But then I got down to Flight Solutions will be reimbursing the airport in the amount of $435,000, which will serve as a credit towards their ground lease. So that kind of, I don't know anything about Flight Solutions or another business or somebody that we're actually going to issue, we're going to get, I'm assuming, which I wouldn't be opposed to, we're going to get $435,000 up front from them, but we're also going to credit that money back to their lease, so we would not be receiving lease payments until this 435 is paid back. So who is Flight Solutions, and what is that all about?
So Flight Solutions approached the airport about building 2 new hangars on the airfield. They are 120 by 100 square feet.
Is that the new ones that's going down on the corner there by
Yes,
the old
sir.
entrance? So I get that's David Potter's.
Yes, David
So
Potter's.
he's Flight Solutions.
He's a member of Flight Solutions,
He's
yes.
a member of Flight.
And so, yes, as a board member, he's had to recuse himself from all of these matters.
I would hope so.
Yes. So the issue was that the area they were building used to be old helicopter pads, but did not actually have an aircraft apron in front of those hangars to be able to build. So we made an agreement that we would go and obtain for each hangar one of our state grants, but that any amount over that, including the matching funds necessary, would be paid for by Flight Solutions so that no funds would be coming out of the pocket of the airport or the cities. So even that engineering fee is being reimbursed by Flight Solutions. So by them giving us that $400,000, we're crediting that towards their ground lease for those 2 hangars.
So, 2 quick questions. So do we have this money from them to pay Tatum's? Or are you going to have to float this until this money comes in? I mean, it's $800,000 more or less. So do we have the grants in hand and when the apron gets done? Or are you going to float this money to them until they give it to us?
So we have the grants in hand. However, the way the state grants work is you do the paving and then they do reimbursement. And so Flight Solutions will be paying up front, and then we will get the reimbursement checks from the state when we have finished the paving.
And my brain just went off for the second question, and that was, did you, just for in my head, since we had an airport authority member that was involved and is involved with Flight Solutions, did we do a separate resolution, or did the airport authority vote to allow this $435,000 credit towards this lease agreement, just being transparent since we have
Yes.
somebody involved? Do you have a separate resolution that authorized the authority to take this money?
So the lease agreement was actually entered into about 2 years ago, and that was brought to both cities for approval.
That's the lease agreement.
Yes, sir.
But
And in that lease agreement-
was this $435,000 apron money in that?
Yes, sir.
It was?
Yes.
I didn't recall seeing that. But
We didn't have the exact number yet because it had not been bid. And so the structuring of they would have to cover the amount over the grants was in that lease, but we did not have the exact number. So
Okay.
once we had it bid, that's why.
that would be my advice, to make sure we dot our i's and cross our t's, especially when we have, somebody that is an authority member that's receiving a $435,000 benefit.
Yes, sir.
That's actually paying us indirect. Any other questions?
So just to understand for future, Paul, by them doing that, that's less revenue that we will receive from them in the future until that is caught up with the amount of money that they give us up front.
That is correct.
So I just want you guys, I won't be here, but I want you guys to understand that's less money that you're gonna get. It's gonna go towards what we're gonna have to put
Well,
towards the
the-
airport. It's one less revenue.
The other side of that coin is that we would be having to expand these aprons, and we would be paying $800,000 out of some kitty, because you can't have hangar rental in the future without aprons, which we're doing several aprons, so, I understand that. I just didn't know anything about, it just looked different to me from being from a Flight Solutions. I wasn't aware of who that was and how we had agreed to, do that. That I didn't remember seeing anything about it, but I'm glad you covered yourself. Any other questions?
I got, what kind of rent are we going to get off those,
So for hangars, we charge 32 cents a square foot, and that has been consistent across the general aviation between the FBO and then other structures that are out there.
now they'll get some kind of credit for the rent. They're the ones building the hangars
They built
themselves.
them with their own money.
Yes.
Yes. But they'll get a credit for that, right?
That's the ground lease that they'll get credited towards.
So the first bunch of years, they'll, in essence,
They'll have prepaid, and then we use their prepaid amount to pave the surface, so that way we wouldn't need to come to the cities to pay that.
who,
Yes, sir.
who is actually building the structure itself? Who is actually building the,
I don't have the name of the subcontractor in front of me, sir.
and your board actually took bids on the structure of the?
No, sir,
this is
we
a
are not
private
building
deal.
the building.
This is the Flight Solution. This is a private deal.
Well, that's my point, is that, do you know if they got a good deal on that? Did there, was in, the involvement, so they could have, I mean, that kind of concerns me that maybe they went overboard in building. I mean, you're stuck at 32
Oh,
cents whether,
Yes, the amount that they're on their hangar isn't being credited. Only the paved surface that we would have paid for is getting credited towards their ground lease.
but, well, I'm talking about the structure itself,
Yes, sir.
the tin, the red iron.
Yes.
These are the same folks, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And their rent is 32 cents a square foot.
Yes, sir.
They built a building, right?
Yes, sir.
So they chose the contractor,
Yes,
Right.
sir.
which the airport had no involvement.
That's correct.
So instead of bidding it out and getting a cheaper price, let's say they bid it out, built it for $5 million. The airport is going to credit them 32 cents a square foot forever divided into $5 million, right?
No, sir.
No,
No,
no.
we get the building free, essentially.
Do what?
The only thing we're paying for, being reimbursed for, is the ground lease. So you rent them the
The
ground.
property it's on.
Yeah, you rent them the ground, they build
32
whatever they
cents.
want, and then at the end of the day, we get whatever they build. Now, when that lease expires, and correct me if I'm wrong, we then can rent at a higher rate because
That's
we're
correct.
renting the building back to them that they built.
At the end of 40 years, these two structures will be owned by the airport.
So they get use of the property for 40 years.
Yes, sir. That's a part of, when you build a structure and you put in your own capital, you get to have a ground lease for a period of time before that structure reverts to being property of the airport. And that is based on the amount of capital improvement.
But typically, without this apron problem, we would be getting 32 cents a square foot for ever how big that building is. But the authority agreed to let them pay, that apron's got to be extended or these hangars are no good to them. And so the airport authority let them pay for this using two other grants or paying for the apron. And we're going to offset it by their ground lease rent till they pay us back. And then that airport would be receiving that 32 cents for ever how many square foot that is per month.
Okay, so we get 32 cents a square foot rent on their building. Is that right?
That's what's being credited towards. So we will start receiving the 32 cents once the amount of this $400,000
Yeah, it's paid back.
is paid back.
How many years would that be roughly?
I had it in, I believe, in the resolution, but I don't know the number off the top of my head.
I didn't see that part in there. It just said credited 100%. I don't remember seeing it.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
No.
A question for the city attorney. Since I pulled these and we didn't do it before, should we read the resolution or not? So if no other questions, I would instruct the city attorney to read the resolution.
Whereas the Texarkana Airport Authority is requesting authorization for its executive director to enter into a contract with Tatum Excavating Company Incorporated for general aviation apron expansion. Whereas the cost of this project is $738,670 and was previously approved in the fiscal year 2024 capital budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the airport executive director is hereby authorized to enter into a contract with Tatum Excavating Company Incorporated for its general aviation apron expansion in an amount not to exceed $738,670. Pass and approve this 4th day of November, 2024.
City attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, the resolution passes. Thank you, Paul. Moving on to our last item on the irregular agenda, which is item number 8, to adopt ordinance to rezone parcel 00193-600 and 00193-601 from C4 Crossroads Business Park to a planned unit development for the purpose of constructing 7 single-family homes. Jamie Finley.
So this is property over here on, this is McDonald Drive here. This is Mount Olive. This property right up here, you may remember a couple of months ago, we rezoned it to a PUD for Colin Coon to build 5 homes up there. Mount Olive Baptist Church is right here. This property is currently zoned C4, Crossroads Business Park. To the east of it is all residential, and actually, with the exception of the church, everything along here is residential also. As you know, that Crossroads business area is not ever developed the way we thought it would. There is water and sewer on the east side of the property. They will have to run utilities across the back of it. This is their site plan. We have a cul-de-sac down here at the request of the fire department for access. This will be a private road, not a public road. They will have a homeowners association to compensate for that and handle that, and then there will be 7 single-family homes, roughly 1,440 square feet.
Who is this, Jamie? I didn't see that.
Donnie Seeley is doing it, and Mark Wordle, his partner, is here.
Who is? I mean, Donnie and who?
Mark Wordle. Wortley, sorry.
Oh.
I went to school in Genoa, so there you go.
So I've got some questions.
Okay.
I know this is a private drive. I know I watched the planning and zoning meeting, and I know that there's not enough room on this property to develop a public road there. And I know that you guys got a variance, I think, on the private drive for 20 foot for the private drive? 26 is what y'all settled on.
Yeah, they wanted it wider.
But to be a public road, I didn't see 26. Are y'all sure about that? Tyler, y'all sure
It's
about that?
20 foot on the plat. Did y'all increase that? You're saying you're,
We're going to, that's just a preliminary plat. Once this, if it gets approved, then there'll be a final plat. that
Yeah, I
will
mean, it
show
might
that.
be preliminary, but you're before the board now, right? And for us to approve that, I'm not going to approve. First of all, a public street is 28 feet. A private drive with cars parked, we know that cars are going to park down that street. I have concerns of public safety, of fire department being able to get down that street, chief, with cars parked down that private drive and not being able to get to a house that potentially could be on fire, an ambulance that could be on there. The other thing that I have is that these are really potentially starter homes for folks.
Yes.
I understand that you are saying you're going to have a HOA. I don't know who's going to manage that. I know that starter homes, folks are tough to get into those because they're first-time home buyers. That's the size house that I built. I did not have money to go into an HOA for the upkeep of a road, and I probably wouldn't have bought a house with that to begin with. I think that opens up a can of worms on how that's going to be collected, how much is it going to be, how's it going to be managed. And then the other thing I have is that this is a private road, and the leeway that the city has over that private drive is you're probably going to come in and put about 1.5 inches of asphalt with a little bit of concrete in there, and then you're going to have 7 houses that potentially going to have 2 cars per house. That's going to be 14 cars dragging up and down that road on 1.5 inches of asphalt. If you do an asphalt road, I'm pretty sure you're not going to do a concrete road, are you?
Well, it was going to be designed as a concrete road.
It is going to be
Yeah.
designed as, but with it being a private drive, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, we still don't have the oversight on the private drive that we have on a public road.
We do not.
So I'm just going to say to this board, I think that this is a bad business design because you've got a road that in 10 years, if it's going to be messed up, you're going to have people coming to this board, they're going to be mad because it's a private drive, it's not a public road, it's tore up, they don't want to pay HOA fees, or somebody took off with the HOA fees. I mean, this is not, you're not talking about Donnie Seeley's property where there's $700,000 to $1 million homes of where you've got a HOA president, you've got 30 or 40 homes out there.
I understand that, yeah.
I mean, I'm just bringing these concerns because,
We did offer to turn that street over to the city.
well, sure, but there's not enough room for it to be a public road.
Well, if it's just a matter of going 2 more feet, I mean, we could do that. There's plenty of room there
Why wouldn't you have done that to begin with?
because they approved it that way to begin with.
Oh, I'm not going to approve it that way. And I would say that you guys can decide whether you want to do that. I'm not going to do that because this is, to me, no offense to you, sir, I know you're the contractor in this. I
Yes,
don't
sir.
even know who the person is. I think he lives in California.
Ed Clark is his name.
Yeah, as far as I know, I haven't seen him. He hadn't been
He-
in any
yeah,
of the
he-
meetings.
He inherited this land and
Yeah,
he wants to develop it.
Yeah, I know that story. I read all of that. But I
Okay.
just think it's, Chief, if you don't have any concerns about this, please address it. But you're talking about a 26-foot road, private drive. He says it's going to be concrete. I don't know the specs on that concrete. You're going to have cars parked up and down, and you can see this private drive. You have any concerns about fire getting there?
One thing I can say for record is we generally consider 20 foot to be the minimum access we need. And that's without any kind of parking on the road. That's saying like we have a lane up to an area, we generally want 20 feet. Now, if you put one car park on there, we'll lay down below that.
Yeah, you're not going to have that. I mean, I think, number one, we have a responsibility of this board for the public safety of our citizens. And so if a fire department doesn't think that they can get a fire truck down there, potentially if there's a house on fire, I'm all for development. If you wanted to do a private drive and have 3 houses there, I mean, you know, I'm just not in favor of a private drive going through there because of all the things we brought up. We're not going to have any oversight from it from the city. You're going to have people that are going to be the 3rd time they've bought a house that's there, and they're not going to know anything about an HOA. They're going to get hit with it. They're not going to want to pay it. So what happens if they don't pay the HOA, and they just say, no, I'm not going to do it?
Well, the HOA, has rules to follow, just as any other HOA.
So who's going to manage that?
Well, the owner will.
The owner in California that's already sold the 7 houses and built the road, and he's
Yes,
out of this,
that-
but he's going to manage the HOA forever.
That's what he agreed to.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Because I don't know what kind of recourse you would have on somebody not being able to collect those fees. I'm not in favor of this. Y'all have heard what my.
Director Harris.
Did you say that you would give the street over to the city?
Yes, we at the planning and zoning meeting, we brought that up, and they just really didn't seem like they wanted to do that.
What's your take on it?
If it's built to city standards, then I've got no problem
But
with it.
don't it have to be, don't you have
There has-
to input now? don't wait till after it's built?
Yeah, certainly. Well, if this is, so as of right now, it's planned to be a private road, but, I mean, they would have to change up this design. The road would have to come further down to the south because we require 50-foot right-of-way. That road has to be centered in the 50-foot. It would also have to be a minimum of 28-foot width. So that road would have to shift down further south. They would have to dedicate a 50-foot right-of-way, and then down where the cul-de-sac is, it would be, the cul-de-sac design would have to change, what is that, 48-foot radius? Yeah, so that's an edge of pavement radius, so the right-of-way would go beyond that. The design would have to change up quite a bit, but if they wanted to do that.
Would you be willing to do that, to look at the street again, to make it a city street? Would you like for us to vote tonight on this, or?
If we do that, weren't we gonna lose that last lot, though?
I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're gonna lose that last line.
And with that, it just wouldn't be feasible to the owner, I don't think.
To lose?
I would have to do some more calculations and figure that out.
So Mayor, could we pull this and allow them to go and research it more and then bring it back to the board?
Just, we can table it.
Yeah.
I just want a couple of questions and Chief Fletcher's here. So you indicated the fire department, Jamie, had something to do with this as far as widening this, so they met. The fire department gave a favorable recommendation on this to the planning commission, because planning commission voted unanimously to approve of it.
We asked them about, because originally, there was no cul-de-sac on the end. It just, the road just dead end.
Right.
And that lot there looked just like the rest of them. We went to them and asked them what kind of turnaround they needed down there. And Jim Wall came back and said all they needed was this cul-de-sac on it.
Chief, do you have any other comments, or?
Mayor, I wasn't involved in any discussion on that. And see, we require a certain size cul-de-sac. Off the top of my head, I don't know what that is. I do know the road, we do require 20 feet. And that's just, I'm not saying 20 foot of the road, somebody parks on that 20 foot for a drive, access to fire department.
And this is 26, so if you had somebody parked on one side of the road, you're squeezing by. What would be, what's the desire of the board?
I would say, I would make a motion to table it.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'd second that.
So I have a motion and a second to table. Is there any other discussion?
No.
All right.
I table this to what it stated. It's
To-
tabled to go back to the planning commission, or let him work it out with Public Works, or what's the purpose?
The way I
This
look at
is-
it, it would have to go, if he's looking at maybe possibly doing the city street, or he's looking at widening the road, it would go back to the planning commission with a new plat.
Correct.
To be approved and recommended to us.
This is being
Correct.
rezoned to a planned unit development, so they have to build exactly from what they give us, so it will have to go back to the planning.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the owner would have to approve losing that lot
Yes.
by widening the street to even go
Correct.
further.
Or the other option is to go to 28 feet? Is that an option?
26, so it was originally, I think,
20.
24.
Yes.
And it's at 26, so he has the option of going to 28? Not, or?
Well, our understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, for it to be a public road, there has to be 15 feet dedicated.
Correct.
That's-
Yeah,
That's for us.
just a
But to
28,
stay a private road, does he have an option to go to 28 feet?
certainly, yes.
Okay.
So that would be something that would meet approval?
I would say we need to stay with it being a city street regulation, the 50-foot right-of-way with my.
We'll say that's up
would be
to
my-
you. You and the guy that owned the property.
Then I guess we'll just have to go back and recalculate and see what we can do then.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to table. Any other discussion? Would you call the roll?
Chillo,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. ordinance is tabled. Board of Directors commentaries. Anybody have anything they'd like to bring to the board? Any board member? Director Harris?
I do. I guess, well, I guess go ahead and start. It's a proclamation from the state of Arkansas. But what I've been doing recently is find out an important issue each year and been adding to the proclamation. And this time, I guess Section 5 would be that new issue there because the governor had made this a whole lot harder to get proclamation done through them. So, and it's the state of Arkansas Executive Department proclamation, from whom these all present come greetings. The state of Arkansas and our citizens recognize and greatly appreciate the contribution in local business and industry to the overall strength, character, and well-being to our state. Residents and visitors greatly benefit from various service product, agriculture and forest, aerospace, manufacturing, mining, technology, and other accommodation provided by business and industrial sector throughout the natural state. Our local business and industry provide employment, wages, benefit, and economic stability to thousands of employees and their families. The citizens continue to benefit from the charity act and support community project and nonprofit program. Arkansas celebrate a new investment through the Department of Commerce, National Communication and Information Administration, which NTIA, which has approved initial proposal for broadband equal access and deploy, which is a BEAD program, and this enabled Arkansas to access funding for beginning to implement of the BEAD program. Arkansas will allocate over $1 billion to assure that everyone has access and reliable and affordable high-speed internet service. Now, therefore, I, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Governor for the state of Arkansas, by virtue and authority vested in me by the laws of the state of Arkansas, do hereby proclaim November 24 as Business and Industry Appreciation Month, in testimony whereof I hereunto set my hands in this called the Great Seal of the state of Arkansas to be fixed this 28th day of October in the year our Lord 2024, and signed by Sarah Sanders and also attested by John Thurston, the state Secretary of State. That's it.
Any other board member?
Drew? Just want to announce for Ward 4, those citizens and constituents that live in that ward, keep in mind, Ward 4 is from 19th Street to Realtor Road. It's bordered by the east side of State Line and the west side of Jefferson. At this time, I want to inform those citizens that we do have a second ward meeting for this year. And that meeting will be at the Recreation Center, December 10th at 5:30 p.m. Have any questions or concerns, give me a call at 870-571-6125. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other board member? Tyler?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let you know, we're working hard on budget, shooting for second half of November workshop, but as soon as we can get that together to get you a good idea of workshop date, I'll send that over to you. And also, I'm sure all of you have seen, but we did appoint a police chief on Friday. We went through a very in-depth process, put a lot of work into this, and I am completely confident. So whenever y'all see Chief Chataway, give him a congratulations.
I didn't recognize him.
Congratulations, Chief.
I didn't recognize him. He's in a suit and tie. I've never seen him in a suit.
That's all I had, Mayor.
Excellent. Our next meeting date will be Monday, November the 18th. And other than that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Could you call the roll?
Jewell,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, we're adjourned.